Smoke covered the sky. The ground was black and broken. Buildings lay in pieces and the air smelled of fire and death. Captain Ray Carter moved slowly through the ruins, his boots crunching on burned metal. His armor was scratched and covered with dust, his visor glowing faintly in the dark. The war was finally over, or at least that's what the report said. But Ray knew better. Wars never really ended. They just left silence behind. He stepped over a fallen wall, scanning the area with his rifle ready. "Sector 4 clear," he said into his comm. His voice sounded tired, rough from days without rest. Then he heard it, a sound that didn't belong to the battlefield. A small, shaky cry. Ray froze. His finger tightened on his weapon. It sounded like a child, but that was impossible. The aliens, the Dravari, had evacuated or died during the last bombardment. No one could survive here. The cry came again, weaker this time. Ray followed the sound, moving carefully through the rubble until he reached a collapsed building. Smoke drifted from it. He pushed away a slab of metal and saw movement beneath it. A small figure, thin arms, gray-blue skin, and eyes glowing softly like stars. An alien child. Ray's heart stopped. His orders echoed in his head. No survivors. No exceptions. The child looked up at him, trembling, covered in dust and blood. Its small chest rose and fell fast. "Please," the alien whispered in a fragile voice. "Don't hurt me." Ray lowered his rifle. His team's voice crackled in his ear. "Captain Carter, what's your status? You find something? Remember the protocol, a clean sweep, no survivors." He stared at the child. It was just scared, not a threat, not an enemy, just a child. "I found a survivor," Ray said quietly. There was a long pause on the radio. Then a sharp voice replied, his second-in-command, Lieutenant Briggs. "Carter, you know the rules. Command is watching." "Leave it." Ray looked at the child again. Those glowing eyes were full of fear, and something else. Hope. He made his choice. He threw his rifle aside, pulled off his gloves, and lifted the heavy debris off the child. The alien winced but didn't cry. Ray wrapped his arms around it carefully, feeling its cold skin against his armor. "Captain Carter!" Briggs shouted. "What are you doing?" "Saving a life," Ray said simply. He carried the child through the ruins toward the extraction zone. Smoke swirled around them. Behind him, his team watched in disbelief. "Sir, Command won't forgive this," one soldier warned. "Then I'll take the punishment," Ray replied. When the dropship landed, Ray stepped inside with the alien child in his arms. The crew froze the moment they saw it. "You brought that thing here?" one shouted. "It's not a thing," Ray said coldly. "It's a child." The others backed away. Fear filled the cabin. No one had ever seen a human soldier protect a Dravari. The two species had been enemies for years. Billions had died on both sides. The alien child clung to Ray's arm, shivering. Its small voice trembled as it spoke a single word. "Help!" Ray sat beside it, wrapping a blanket around its shoulders. His heart felt heavy but right. For the first time since the war began, he didn't feel like a soldier. He felt human again. When they reached orbit, the ship connected to the human command channel. A cold voice filled the speakers. "Captain Ray Carter, report." Ray stood up, saluting out of habit. "Mission complete. Recovered one survivor. A Dravari?" The voice asked sharply. "Yes." Silence. Then a low, angry tone replied, "You were ordered to eliminate all survivors." "Why did you disobey?" Ray looked at the alien child beside him. It watched him quietly, glowing eyes wide. "Because it was just a kid," he said. "Because I couldn't do it." Another pause. Then the voice hardened. "Captain Carter, you just committed treason." Everyone in the cabin went silent. The soldiers stared at Ray. Some took a step back, unsure if they should arrest him. Ray didn't move. His hands were steady, his eyes calm. "If saving a child is treason," he said softly, "then I accept it." The radio clicked off. The ship's alarms began to flash red. Command had cut their connection and sent a signal. They were coming for him. Ray looked out through the window at the burned planet below. He could still see the fires burning in the dark. He felt the child's small hand grip his sleeve. "It's okay," he whispered. "I won't let them hurt you." Outside, human warships moved into formation. Inside, Captain Ray Carter held the alien child close. And for the first time since the war began, a soldier disobeyed, not out of anger, but out of mercy. But mercy in this new galaxy Might just start another war. The warship Resolute drifted silently above the burned planet. Its metal hull still glowed from the battle below. Inside, every soldier moved with quiet tension. But in the medical bay, one man sat still, Captain Ray Carter. Beside him lay the alien child. Wrapped in a gray blanket, its breathing was slow and weak. The med scanner beeped softly. Ray watched the small creature, his mind heavy with questions. What had he done? He had disobeyed a direct order from Central Command. He had brought an enemy onto a human warship. His crew looked at him like he was insane. But he didn't care. He looked at the child's face, its glowing blue eyes half open. You're safe now, Ray whispered. The child's lips moved. Why, help me? It asked in broken English. Ray hesitated. He wasn't even sure of the answer. Because you didn't deserve to die, he said finally. War isn't supposed to kill children. The child closed its eyes again. My name, Lyra, it whispered. Ray blinked. Lyra, he repeated softly. At that moment, the door slid open. Lieutenant Briggs stepped in with 2 armed guards. His face was hard. Captain, he said sharply. Command wants to speak with you immediately. Ray sighed, standing up. Fine, watch over her, he said to the medic. Briggs stepped closer. Her? You're calling it a her now? Ray stared at him. She has a name, Lyra. Briggs frowned. You're losing your mind, sir. The Dravari burned colonies, slaughtered civilians. You saw what they did on Vega Prime. I saw, Ray said quietly, but I also saw fear in her eyes. She's not a monster. Briggs shook his head. Command won't care about that. Minutes later, Ray entered the command room. The holoscreen flickered to life, showing the face of Admiral Holt, the man who commanded the entire human fleet. His gray uniform looked clean, perfect, untouched by the war's dirt. Captain Carter, Holt said, his voice cold. You disobeyed a direct order. Ray stood tall. Yes, sir. Explain yourself. Ray took a slow breath. Sir, I found a Dravari child alive in the ruins. She was unarmed, injured, terrified. Killing her would have been... Wrong. Holt's eyes narrowed. Wrong? Do you know how many human children those things killed? Yes, sir. But I won't become like them. The room went silent. Then Holt spoke again. You're relieved of command. Security teams are being dispatched to detain you and remove the alien from your ship. Until further notice, you're charged with treason. The screen went dark. Briggs turned to him, pale. Sir, what are you going to do? Ray looked at him. His eyes were calm, almost peaceful. I'm going to do what's right. The alarm started minutes later. Red lights flashed through the corridors. The crew whispered in fear and confusion as orders spread. Detain Captain Carter. Secure the alien. Ray moved fast. He reached the med bay where Lyra still lay on the table. The medic looked at him nervously. They told me to hand her over. She's coming with me, Ray said firmly. Before the medic could answer, a squad of armed soldiers appeared at the door. Captain, step away from the alien. Their leader shouted. Ray raised his hands. You don't want to do this. We have orders, the soldier snapped. Ray moved suddenly, faster than they expected. He hit the emergency lock on the wall, sealing the med bay doors. Warning lights flashed. He grabbed Lyra, wrapping her in the blanket, and headed toward the maintenance tunnels. Hold on, he said to her. Lyra looked up weakly. They will hurt you, Ray forced a small smile. They'll have to catch me first. He moved through the narrow tunnels, the hum of the ship echoing around them. He knew every corridor, every shortcut. The Resolute had been his command for years. He reached the hangar bay. Inside, small transport pods were lined up, short-range escape crafts. Perfect. But before he could enter, Briggs appeared. His rifle was pointed straight at Ray. Don't do this, sir, Briggs said. His voice shook. You're throwing everything away. Ray met his eyes. You think I don't know that? But if we keep killing the innocent, this war will never end. Briggs hesitated. His hands trembled. Command will hunt you down. Maybe, Ray said. But maybe someone will finally ask why. He stepped closer, his voice softer now. I trained you, Briggs. I know you're not heartless, Briggs swallowed hard. Then slowly he lowered his weapon. Go, he said quietly. Before I changed my mind, Ray nodded in silent thanks. He entered the pod, securing Lyra in the seat beside him. The engines hummed to life. As the small craft detached from the Resolute, Ray looked back one last time. The massive warship floated like a dark shadow in space. He didn't know where he was going. He only knew he couldn't go back. Hours passed. Stars stretched across the viewport. Lyra slept, her breathing steady. Ray sat beside her, thinking of what he'd done. He was now a fugitive, a human captain branded as a traitor for saving a life. He opened the comms, searching for any signal, but all human channels were blocked. Then something strange happened. A faint alien signal appeared on the scanner. A Dravari beacon, a weak, almost broken. Lyra stirred and pointed to it. "Home," she whispered. Ray stared at the signal. "That's where your people are." Stars filled the black sky like cold fire. The small escape craft drifted silently through space, its engines running on low power. Inside, Captain Ray Carter sat at the controls, staring at the blinking signal on his screen. The weak Dravari beacon. Lyra sat beside him, wrapped in a thick blanket, watching the stars through the window. Her glowing eyes reflected the lights outside. "That way," she said softly, pointing to the direction of the signal. Ray nodded. "I know, but we're running low on fuel. If we push too far, we might not make it." Lyra tilted her head. "Then we die." Ray gave a small, tired smile. "Not today." He adjusted the course, pushing the engines a little harder. The pod shook, but it held steady. He had been in hundreds of battles, faced fleets, seen death more times than he could count. But right now, protecting the small alien child felt more terrifying than any war. Because now he wasn't fighting enemies. He was fighting his own people. Back on the human warship Resolute, Admiral Holt stood on the bridge watching the stars. "Report," he demanded. A young officer saluted. "Captain Carter's escape craft jumped to deep space. We lost visual, but his trajectory suggests he's heading toward the Dravari border." Holt's face darkened. "So he plans to deliver the alien back to its people?" "Yes, sir." The Admiral's eyes narrowed. "Prepare a pursuit team, and send the message to the Council. I want every fleet in the sector alerted. Captain Ray Carter is to be captured or destroyed." The officer hesitated. "Sir, he's one of our best." "The troops will follow orders," Holt interrupted coldly. Carter made his choice. He turned back to the window. And now he will face the consequences. Far from them, Ray's pod finally broke through a dense asteroid field. He could see a faint blue glow ahead. A dying sun surrounded by debris. The beacon signal was strongest there. "That's it," he said. "We're close." Lyra leaned forward, her voice soft. "My people used to live there. Before the humans came." Ray felt a sting in his chest. "The humans didn't start the war alone," he said quietly. "Your armies invaded first." Lyra looked at him with sadness. "We were afraid. You grew strong too fast. The Council said humans would destroy us," Ray frowned. "And so they attacked first. And we answered." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The hum of the engines filled the silence. Then Lyra said, "Maybe we were both wrong." Ray looked at her, a child from the enemy's world, sitting beside him, saying what no general ever had. He nodded slowly. "Maybe." Suddenly the scanner beeped. A new signal appeared. Multiple ships approaching fast. Ray's eyes widened. "No, it can't be." He pulled up the view screen. 3 human fighters streaked toward them, weapons armed. A voice came through the comm. "This is Commander Briggs of the Resolute. Captain Carter, power down your engines immediately and surrender. You're under arrest." Ray recognized the voice instantly. Briggs, his old second-in-command. He opened the channel. "Briggs, listen to me. You don't understand. There's more going on here." "No, sir. You don't understand. You're risking another war. Command says the Dravari will see this as an act of treason and betrayal. Turn back now before it's too late." Ray shook his head. "I can't. There's a chance to end this war for good, not with more death, but with a message." Briggs's voice turned sharp. "Don't make me do this, sir." Ray looked at Lyra. Her small hands clutched the seat. "They're your friends?" she asked. "They were," Ray said. "But now they're just following orders." The fighters moved closer. Target locks appeared on his screen. Ray took a deep breath. "Hold on tight." He pulled the control lever hard. The pod dove sharply, sliding between 2 asteroids. Laser fire flashed past them, shaking the hull. The pod twisted and rolled through the debris field, barely avoiding collision. Come on," Ray muttered, pressing every bit of power into the engines. The small ship burst out of the asteroid field, straight into the orbit of a ruined world. Below them lay a dark, broken planet. The surface shimmered faintly with glowing blue veins, the remains of Dravari cities half buried under ash. Lyra's eyes widened. "Home," she whispered. Ray guided the pod down, landing roughly on a wide plateau. The engine sputtered and died. He exhaled. We made it, but before he could rest, the radar flashed again. The fighters were still coming. He turned to Lyra. "We don't have much time. Are there survivors here?" Lyra closed her eyes, concentrating. Then she pointed toward the horizon. "There, I can feel them." Ray grabbed his gear, slinging a rifle over his shoulder, not to fight but to protect. "Let's go." They stepped out into the dust. The air was thin and bitter. The ground was covered with blackened ruins and long shadows. Lyra walked ahead, her small steps steady. "They will not trust you," she said. "I don't blame them," Ray replied. "But I didn't come here for trust. I came to make things right." They moved through the ruins until they reached a large cracked dome. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the surface. Lyra touched it and the door slowly opened with a deep hum. Inside was a group of Dravari survivors, thin, weak, hiding. When they saw Ray, they hissed and pointed weapons. A tall Dravari stepped forward, his eyes glowing brighter than the rest. "Human!" he growled. "You bring death again?" Ray raised his hands. "No, I bring her." Lyra stepped out from behind him. The alien leader froze. His voice softened. "Lyra?" She nodded. "He saved me." The Dravari looked from the girl to Ray. Silence filled the room. Finally, the alien leader spoke. "Why?" Ray looked straight at him. "Because I was tired of killing children. Maybe it's time someone stopped." For a long moment, no one moved. Then the alien slowly lowered his weapon. Outside, thunder rolled through the clouds as the human fighters descended, ready to attack. Ray's radio came alive again. "Captain Carter, stand down." "You're in enemy territory." Ray looked at the alien leader. "If they attack, we both die. But if we stand together..." The alien finished the sentence quietly. "Maybe we end this war," or nodded. "Then let's give them something they'll never forget." As the sky above burned with light, human and alien eyes met, not as enemies, but as survivors. The ground shook as the human fighters roared above the dark planet. Flames of exhaust tore through the ash-filled sky. Captain Ray Carter stood in the ruins beside Lyra and the Dravari survivors. Dust and smoke swirled around them while the sound of approaching engines grew louder and louder. Ray's comm buzzed again. "Captain Carter, you're trespassing in enemy territory. Power down your weapon and surrender immediately." It was Briggs again, his old friend, now his hunter. Ray looked at the alien leader beside him, a tall Dravari named Koresh. The two locked eyes, one human, one alien, both soldiers who had lost too much. "If they attack," Koresh said quietly, "we will fight, even if we die." Ray shook his head. "No, that's what they expect us to do." He turned to Lyra, who was watching the sky with wide, glowing eyes. "Get everyone into the dome. Stay low. But what about you?" she asked. Ray gave a small smile. "Someone has to talk before the shooting starts." Koresh watched him for a moment, then said, "You are either brave or a fool." "Probably both," Ray said, walking out into the open. The three human fighters landed in the ruins, their metal wings kicking up clouds of dust. Soldiers in gray armor stepped out, weapons ready. Briggs walked at the front, his face pale but determined. When he saw Ray, he raised his rifle slightly. "You shouldn't have come here, sir." Ray stopped a few meters away, hands open. "Put the guns down, Briggs." "No one needs to die here," Briggs shook his head. "You're surrounded by enemies, and you brought an alien child onto a human ship. You've broken every code we live by. Command says you've lost your mind." Ray's voice stayed calm. "Maybe Command lost something too, like their humanity." Briggs's eyes narrowed. "You really think saving one alien will change anything?" "No," Ray said softly. "But maybe it'll start something that will." Before Briggs could answer, a low rumble filled the air. From the horizon, dark shapes began to rise. Massive, damaged Dravari warships. Their hulls cracked but still functional. Koresh and his people had called them. The humans turned in shock. One of the soldiers shouted, "Multiple contacts!" "Dravari ships inbound." Ray's comm crackled again with Holt's icy voice. "Carter, step away from the aliens. You've doomed yourself, and everyone with you." Ray ignored it. He looked up at the sky, at the strange sight. Human fighters on one side, wounded alien warships on the other, and himself standing in the middle of it all. "Don't fire," he said into his mic. I repeat, do not fire. We can end this here. But Holt's voice came back sharp. You are not in command anymore, Captain. Then the first missile launched. The explosion ripped across the sky. One of the Dravari ships returned fire instantly, sending blue plasma bolts toward the human fighters. The ruins shook violently as debris fell from the sky. Ray shouted, Stop! Hold your fire! But no one listened. Koresh grabbed his arm, pulling him behind a collapsed wall as another blast hit nearby. Your people started it, the alien shouted. They were following orders, Ray shouted back. Just like you did once. The dome shook as the battle raged overhead. Lyra cried out, covering her ears from the deafening sound. Ray saw her and felt something break inside him. He couldn't let her die. Not after everything. He grabbed his comm again and screamed into it. Briggs, listen to me.
Stop firing, damn it.
There was static for a moment. Then Briggs's voice came through, shaky. Sir, we can't. Command ordered a full strike. Then disobey. Ah! The explosion lit up the sky like a second sun. For a moment, the entire battlefield fell silent. The human flagship stopped firing. The Dravari warships drifted motionless in the air. Dust rained down over the ruins, and on the ground, everyone stared upward, waiting, listening, hoping. But Captain Ray Carter's small pod was gone. Lyra stood in the middle of the broken plane, her tiny hands clutching the edge of her blanket. Her glowing eyes reflected the burning clouds. Koresh placed a hand on her shoulder, his deep voice low and heavy. He is gone, Lyra shook her head. No. He promised he would not let them hurt us. Koresh looked up at the silent sky. Then maybe he kept his promise. High above, aboard the Resolute, confusion spread like wildfire. The flagship's main cannons were offline. Its systems were dead, fried from the explosion caused by Ray's final charge. On the bridge, Lieutenant Briggs stared at the dark screens. What the hell happened? He shouted. Unknown, the engineer replied. Energy feedback from Carter's pod overloaded the flagship's reactors. He sacrificed his ship to disable them. Briggs took off his helmet, running a hand through his hair. His heart pounded. He did it. He actually stopped them. Another soldier whispered. Does that mean the war's over? Briggs looked out at the view. The human fleet and the Dravari ships both drifting quietly now. Maybe, he said softly. Or maybe it's just beginning again. A different kind of war. On the planet below, the air grew calm. The survivors came out from the dome, blinking in the smoky light. They saw the human fighters floating silently above, not attacking, not moving. Lyra walked forward slowly, her small feet leaving light prints in the ash. Her eyes glowed brighter now, filled with something new. Not fear, but determination. Koresh followed her. Child, where are you going? She looked up at the sky. To find him? You can't, Koresh said gently. The human ship exploded. Lyra's head turned, her voice steady. He saved me when no one else did. I will find him, Koresh said nothing. There was something powerful in her words, something he couldn't ignore. He nodded slowly. Then I will help you. Days passed. Human and Dravari ships stayed locked in silence. No one fired. No one moved. Commanders on both sides waited for orders that never came. Rumors spread through the fleets. Captain Ray Carter was dead. Others said he survived the explosion and vanished into deep space. No one knew the truth. On the surface, Lyra and Koresh led a small group of survivors through the ruins, searching for any sign of Ray's crash site. Every step was hard. The air was toxic, the ground unstable, but they kept going. One night, under a faint blue moon, Lyra stopped suddenly. She looked toward a crater half buried in ash. There, she whispered. Koresh followed her gaze. A twisted piece of metal stuck out of the ground, part of Ray's escape pod. They ran toward it. The hatch was broken, smoke still rising from inside. Lyra crawled through the wreckage, calling out softly, Ray? Captain Carter? There was no answer, just silence. Then she saw it, a small light blinking under the wreckage. She pulled the metal apart and found a damaged data core, its edges glowing faintly. Koresh took it carefully, a human device. Lyra touched it and the core flickered to life. A hologram appeared, Ray's face pale and tired but alive. If you're seeing this, his voice said, then I didn't make it. Or maybe I did, who knows? He gave a small smile. Lyra, if you're watching, thank you. You reminded me what I was fighting for. Don't let anyone take that from you. He paused. The hologram flickered. There's something bigger out there. Something neither of our species understands yet. The war was just the beginning. But maybe together you can stop what's coming next. Then the hologram ended and the light went dark. Lyra held the device close to her chest. He's not gone, she whispered. He's still guiding us. Koresh looked toward the horizon. Then we will honor him. Human or not, he fought for peace. In orbit, the silence between the fleets finally broke. A human transmission went out. Not from command, but from Briggs. To all ships, cease fire. Captain Ray Carter acted on his own. But his actions stopped the flagship's attack. We stand down. There was confusion, but no one argued. Every soldier had seen the light. Every ship had felt the power of one man's choice. Then, unexpectedly, a Dravari signal responded. It was Koresh. Human ships. We also stand down. Captain Carter's sacrifice will not be forgotten. The child lives, and she carries his message. For a moment, the channel was silent. Then slowly, one by one, ships on both sides powered down their weapons. The war that had burned across stars for years finally stopped. Weeks later, in a quiet valley on the burned planet, humans and Dravari worked together, clearing rubble, sharing food, and rebuilding shelters. Briggs stood beside Koresh, watching Lyra draw on the cracked wall of a ruined building. She was painting in a simple picture made from ash and dust. It showed a man in a human uniform standing under the stars, holding hands with a small alien child. Briggs smiled faintly. She really believes he's still out there. Koresh nodded. Maybe she's right. Sometimes spirits do not die with the body. They stay where they're needed. Briggs looked up at the stars. If he's out there, I hope he knows what he started. Koresh turned to him. He started something neither of us thought possible. Peace. The two soldiers stood in silence. Side by side, enemies turned allies, and above them, far beyond the blue clouds, a faint signal pulsed through the stars. It was weak, almost gone, but still there. Signal. Captain Ray Carter. Alive. Somewhere, deep in the void, a damaged escape pod floated quietly among the wreckage. Inside, Ray Carter opened his eyes, coughing from the smoke. The ship's AI blinked to life. Warning, critical damage. Life support failing. Ray looked through the cracked window. The stars shone bright and endless. He smiled faintly. Guess it's not over yet. He reached toward the controls, rerouting the last of the power to the engines. The pod shuddered, then began to move, slowly toward the distant light of the Dravari system. Hold on, kid, he whispered. I'm coming home. And as the small craft vanished into the stars, the galaxy, for the first time in years, and was quiet. But in that silence, something new was beginning. The stars were quiet again. The war that once shook the galaxy had ended in silence. Human and Dravari fleets were no longer enemies. The weapons that once burned worlds now floated cold in the void. Yet somewhere far beyond the border systems, a single human signal blinked weakly, like a heartbeat refusing to die. It came from a broken escape pod drifting through endless black. Inside that pod, Captain Ray Carter lay barely conscious. His uniform was torn, his skin burned, and every breath hurt. The air was thin, the power low, but his eyes were still open. The ship's AI flickered on. Warning, oxygen at 6%. Recommend immediate rescue. Ray smiled weakly. Yeah, thanks for the advice. He coughed, the sound echoing in the small metal cabin. Just keep the beacon running. Beacon active. Transmission range limited to 1 light hour. He knew no one would hear it. The human fleet was far away. Dravari space was even farther. But still, he wouldn't give up. He had made a promise. He had promised Lyra he'd protect her. And he always kept his promises. Ray adjusted the pod's controls, setting a slow course toward the nearest planet. The engines sputtered and died, but the craft still drifted forward, a faint hope in an endless sea. He leaned back, closing his eyes. His last thoughts before sleep were simple. Please let her be safe. 3 months later, the war world of Rhaegar IV had changed. The ruins were being rebuilt. Human engineers worked beside Dravari builders, their voices mixing in strange harmony. Once this world had been covered in fire and smoke. Now green sprouts were pushing through the ash. At the center of the largest settlement, a memorial stood, 2 statues carved from the same stone. One was a human soldier. The other, a small Dravari child holding his hand. Their names were carved below: Captain Ray Carter and Lyra of the Hollow Sky. Every day, Lyra came to the statue. She sat in silence, her small fingers tracing the letters in the stone. Koresh stood behind her. "He would be proud," he said softly. Lyra didn't look up. "He's not gone." "I can feel it." Koresh smiled faintly. "You sound like him now, stubborn." She turned, her glowing eyes serious. "He said something was coming. Something bigger than the war." "What if he was right?" Koresh's face darkened. "I've heard whispers. Fleets vanishing at the edge of the galaxy. Energy storms that eat ships whole. Some say it's just old weapons still waking up. Others," he paused, "others say it's something new." Lyra looked up at the sky. "Then we'll be ready, and when he comes back in deep space." Outer Rim Ray woke to the sound of static. The pod's lights flickered weakly. He didn't know how long he'd been asleep. Days, weeks? He touched the console. Status: power 3%. Life support failing. External environment unknown. Ray looked out through the cracked glass. A faint blue light glowed ahead. A planet. He smiled through the pain. "You've got to be kidding me." It was a Dravari world. He recognized the glow of its twin moons. His pod began to fall toward the atmosphere. The hull shook violently, heat burning through the metal. "Hold together," he muttered. "Just one more landing." The pod hit the surface hard, sliding across sand and rock before coming to a stop. Alarms screamed, smoke filled the cabin, and everything went dark again. When he woke next, he was not alone. 2 Dravari scouts stood over him, weapons drawn. Their eyes glowed fey.